Welcome to Threads of Sustainability. I'm your host, Bridget O'Flaherty. With climate change and environmental impacts becoming a common narrative in our daily lives, it seems like a great time to explore what sustainability looks like in the quilting, fiber, and textile world. We'll hear from creatives, makers, manufacturers, and producers from all over the world to discover what sustainability looks like to them and find out how they're contributing to a sustainable future. We will celebrate positive steps people are taking, no matter how small. Whether you're a hobbyist or a pro, you can bring sustainability into your practice. Join me as we take a deep dive into the environmental, social, and economic impacts with Threads of Sustainability. Hey there, welcome to another episode of Threads of Sustainability. I am Bridget, and I'm excited to talk to you today and share the conversation that I had with Carolyn Pladen, and she is here in Edmonton, and I got a chance to meet with her a little while ago at a Quilt Guild meeting and was really excited about that, and then got a chance to talk with her more about her and to learn more about her story and how she came to quilting, because she's young, and so that was really exciting to me to see such a young quilter in it in such a deep way where she's making a business. This is something that she is really committed to doing. And she's a zero-waste quilter, which was also a really exciting idea and concept that we are starting to hear a little bit more about and see a little bit more about, but she is just owning it. And I was really excited by that. So I ended up having a really intimate and lovely conversation with Carolyn. And I really hope that you enjoy listening to this perspective and some of the ideas that are narratives for the younger generations coming into this quilt industry. So an exciting conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Carolyn, welcome to Threads of Sustainability. It's really nice to have you on here as a guest.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is an amazing opportunity.
Wow, it's just so exciting to talk with you. Like I love the idea. So first of all, we met at was it the Strathern Art Walk? Is that what that was?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. So out here in Edmonton, I'm visiting my sister, and there you were, a zero waste quilter. And my mind was a little bit blown. I was like, a zero waste quilter? Like, I need to know this person.
Yeah.
And so we chatted there. I got to see some of your stuff. And then I got to see you again on Tuesday night when I went to the Modern Quilt Guild. And you're the president of the Quilt Guild?
I'm past president. Okay. I was president from 2020 to 2022.
Okay.
And then it got passed on to Carmen, who's now president.
Okay, so you got to do it through COVID.
Yeah. So nice. I brought the Edmonton Modern Quilt Guild through COVID and all through the pandemic with Zoom calls and
nice.
Teach everybody how to have Zoom etiquette.
Yes, excellent. Well, and they're very skilled at that. It's pretty cool to see how well you guys manage the hybrid meetings and that kind of stuff. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But you were also the guest speaker. You happened to be the guest speaker for the first Quilt Guild meeting that I attended here in Edmonton. And it's a zero waste quilter, which I just thought, okay, there's a lot of things pointing us in the direction of needing to get to know each other and chat. So
yeah, definitely. This seems serendipitous.
This seemed like a really great opportunity to have a conversation about zero waste quilting. Mm-hmm. And I have 1,000 questions that I wanted to ask you that night, but I decided I'd wait for now. I probably won't get through 1,000, but maybe I'll get through a few of them.
Yeah. So I'm all ears, and I got answers for, I don't know, maybe.
So I guess my first question for you is, how long have you been doing zero waste quilting? And before that, why zero waste quilting? What's the motivation for you?
Sustainability and being an environmentalist and really understanding how there is so much textile waste. And I mean, something that everybody's talking about right now is fast fashion and how to not go that way. It's convenient and everything, but it's okay, what brands can we look at? Can we start sewing our own garments? Are we upcycling? I have friends of mine that will get together and do a clothing swap. And so really having that consciousness with our own wardrobe, but then also bringing it into the quilting practice is kind of how I started thinking about it. And I was also it's a waste. Like
Yeah.
I pay good money for this stuff. Like I
Yeah,
don't
you
want
don't
to
want to
throw it
throw it out.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So when okay, so that's sort of the big picture idea
That's
of it.
the big one, yeah.
Sure, but for you, where did this come from? Like where did you have you always been sustainably conscious? Did you do studying in school? Did you grow up that with that in your family, in your life? Because I also the obvious thing for me is you're a young quilter,
Yeah,
right?
I am.
So is this part of just an inherent part of your cultural upbringing? Like where is this coming from?
Um, maybe.
Does it
I
just
don't
seem normal
I
to
don't
you, or is it
it
something
does.
that you're working at?
It's well, now I'm working at it because it's like, okay, I have a lot of scraps, like because people have given me many of scraps, and I'm like, oh boy. Now it's like a real like, okay, let's get this stuff done. But I think it's like I grew up with it. So I remember in junior high, like in elementary school and whatever, it's like reduce, reuse, recycle. That was like in
Sure.
our curriculum basically, because
Yeah.
I grew up in Edmonton and I did all public education here. And then in junior high, there was a presentation that we had, like we like did a field trip, and then it was about environmentalism and like really being conscious of like there is a ticking time bomb, basically, because if we don't change our ways, like who knows how many generations we'll have the earth, and like we're losing stuff anyways.
How did that
And
make you
so,
feel at the time?
um, guilty.
Okay. Okay.
I
Fair.
was like 14,
Yeah.
probably, I think. Yeah, 14 or 15. And it's like, well, I have to do something about this. Like my dad works in oil. Um, I skate, like I figure skated. So like that was like, okay, so like the ice maintenance. I also golf. So like you think about the impacts that golf courses have
Right.
and how much land they take up and
Yeah,
all the pesticides they use. And
14-year-olds don't usually think about that.
no, but like I do apparently, and it was ridiculous. And I just always felt bad about throwing something out. Like I know what can be recycled. I know what can be compost. I know what can go in the garbage. But then like knowing that Millwoods Golf Course is built on top of a landfill. We're like in Edmonton, we're mining methane out of a landfill as part like on the west side of the city. And just like if you canoe down the North Saskatchewan River that like winds through the middle of Edmonton, there's tires that are coming out of the side of the side
Yeah.
of the riverbank, and we can't go in and pull them out because then we're going to erode all that whole, because like Dawson Creek Park is like basically on a landfill.
Yeah.
So knowing that like what we practiced before and where we need to go with our practice is just, I don't know, it's something that I don't talk about a lot. I
This
just
is
kind
why
of
I'm
like
asking
do.
you about it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And then so with quilting and looping it back to like my fiber practice is that when I was same age, 14, 15, a local lady had her two of her daughters were the same age as me. And we were going to school together, and then she opened up like a teenager like learn to quilt, kind of learn to sew
Oh,
thing.
cool.
And I knew about sewing. My mom would grow up like we grew up with her sewing our Halloween costumes, and so it was like Tuesday evenings or whatever, and we would go to her house. We started at like a community hall, and then moved to her house because it was literally like me, a friend, and then the two girls, and like we were all friends. We all went to school together. We're like, we're not renting a place for this.
Right.
And she showed us stuff about like using thread offcuts and like collecting threads and then somehow making something out of it.
Hmm.
And it blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then she took us to a quilt show. Don't know what show, don't know anything. And it was my first time seeing like art quilts. And I knew
Okay.
about quilting, I knew about like traditional stuff and everything. But then seeing like somebody take it looked like just random stuff and then just like throw it on a quilt. And it was like this portrait of this lady, and it was absolutely stunning. Um, but then I also grew up watching Art Attack,
Oh
which
yeah, I
like
know Art Attack. My
okay,
kids watch
cool.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So like that is also something. And like I always balance myself in between like a really sports driven person with my extracurriculars, but then I also had like this creative thing just brewing. So I have like sketchbooks when I was a kid, and I took art until grade 10, and then I took fine arts a little bit in university. So that's,
And
I don't know. That
so,
was a lot of talking. Sorry.
no, that's this is why we're here.
Yeah.
And so, what then? How did you move from dabbling in art and textiles to this being a business for you?
Um, I
What
had too much stuff.
You had too much stuff. Like, did
Yeah.
it just kind of organically happen, or did you just decide one day, okay, this is where I really need to be?
I think it organically happened because I would go to these markets with friends of mine, or like we would go shopping and everything and see all the like local artists and stuff and be like, I can do that. Like, and then it's like I was with my sister one time and we were just at a random farmer's market and we passed by this quilter and um I didn't really give it any thought or anything. And then we like walked by and I was like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And like I was like there for vegetables or something. And then my sister was like, uh, your sewing is better than hers. Like
Oh,
why aren't you doing this? Like you
okay.
are there with your craft. And I was like, oh, maybe I could make some money out of this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so is this full time for you now, or do you have a day job that you're doing as well?
day job.
Day
Yeah.
job as well. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Me too. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
hard to make both of them work.
It's yeah, it is difficult to make both work. I am actually switching jobs. I have a day. My first day for my new job is on Tuesday.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And are you working in something that still fills your cup, or is it just enough to make you some money?
I think it will fill my cup. It's I'm moving back into community development,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'll be working in the downtown district core, and like meeting local businesses and seeing how we can like it's helping with the revitalization project that's going
Right.
on downtown.
So I find it really interesting talking to people about what their jobs are as opposed to what their textiles are. And
Hmm.
often they kind of cross over, that there's going to be a
Yeah.
point in time where your textiles are going to be in your day job, and or your creativity at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Creative thinking is often brought back into our day jobs, and so yeah, I have a feeling
Yeah.
we're going to see some interesting textile projects come out of that work for you.
Probably. Yeah.
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 So talk to me a little bit more about why you decided to start Kodiak quilting, and
Hmm.
what do you do with it?
Kodiak is actually my camp nickname. So I have a recreation background. So I did recreation and leisure studies in university, and then I worked camps. And then at camp, I wanted to be called Bear, but you can't have 30 kids running through a forest yelling Bear.
Sure,
So,
fair.
so my name was Kodiak, and then I kind of embodied it for I think it was 4 or 5 years that I worked for the company, and then I was like, well, I needed to name this something. And I was like, Kodiak quilting. It's mine, it's my
Nice.
name, whatever. It was like, hey, I do little things, but then those little things like build up. And then it's like, hey, I make these things and I want to like test out things and see what sells and see what people need in their lives and like kind of fill that hole. I do baby quilts. I do keychains, bookmarks, project bags, backpacks, bigger quilts, fanny packs, like really like every yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
just do
that's awesome.
I sew what makes me happy and then try and sell it, you know?
Excellent. And
Yeah.
so you decided when you were starting this business that you realized you had the skills, you could do this, and you had the product, so you could pull
Yeah.
together a business, but you decided to take on zero waste.
Zero waste came before Kodiak quilting.
Oh, it did. Okay, so tell
Yeah.
me more about that.
I didn't throw anything out. So I always have a thread catcher next to my machine, and then I was like, oh, there's so much that I just started stuffing threads into like one of those like large mason jars.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you do with this? Like, I don't know. And I just kept collecting. And at the time my mom was still around. So she was like, what do you just throw it out? I'm like, no, don't throw it out. So we'll find something to do with it. And so I was like half a hoarder, but I didn't know I was doing zero waste without knowing I was doing zero
Right.
waste, you know? So then, but I would like sew little things together and be like, and use scraps to do my test blocks for my bigger quilts. And then I was reading, my mom and I were self-taught quilters, so I would like take a stack of quilt books from the library and just like read through them all. Maybe not make a quilt, but like read how people sort their scraps, read how people pick fabrics, read like just like see how everybody else's philosophy of quilting like differs, and I just like pick and choose and pick and choose. And then I found the Instagram world of
Oh yeah.
quilting,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I was like, and there was people like doing their like scrap sorting and like talking about scraps and using scraps and everything. And I was like fully on in it. And I was living in New Zealand at the time and working overseas without a sewing machine, without any access to anything. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, and
Yeah.
so before I left, I finished a quilt for my brother that was a king size log cabin. Came home,
Yes.
finished two quilts before Christmas, and I was like, this this is what I need to be doing. Um,
So you did these king size quilts out of
yeah.
scraps.
Uh, I No, so it was out of fabric I purchased a lot of fat quarters, but
Okay.
then I had so much left over from his quilt, I basically like made myself another king size quilt
Okay.
of the exact same colors. It's just a different pattern, still log cabin style. And then I was like, wow, if you can take all the scraps from one quilt and all the fabric that doesn't match and make another one, like just it's a full like cycle of just using scraps and making things, and like you don't have to always buy new things for a quilt.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing big quilts too. You're not doing just little things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple queen sizes just hanging out waiting for me to get to them.
And
Yeah.
what was your process in deciding what that the zero waste was going to yeah, just trying to figure out like how did the zero waste become brand for you? Like
I was making my new business cards and
okay,
I wanted not just to be a quilter. Like, yes,
sure.
I'm a quilter. Yes, I'm a fiber enthusiast. Um, so I was like, what's my niche? Like, what's gonna get people talking about me? What's gonna be? And I was like, zero fiber waste. I don't throw anything out.
Yeah.
I I go to shops and I pick out quilts, handmade or store bought, and then given to the thrift shop. And I make quilt coats out of them
Okay.
and I recycle them my own way without them landing in the landfill, because you go to like Goodwill bins and then there's a lot of textiles there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is old blankets and stuff. And like my friends that are garment sewing, they will take sheets and do like their pattern testing with old sheets from the Goodwill and then
Yeah.
even making dresses from it. And it's absolutely gorgeous. You can't tell that it's not new fabric. Um, so yeah, I think like just that zero fiber waste was like actually claiming it and saying, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Nothing goes in the garbage. And I'm doing my part, like very small part. But now, like I added it up for the meeting my lecture on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and I think I'm over 250 pounds that are redirected from the landfill
Amazing. That's
of
amazing.
quilting. Yeah,
I
of
love
quilting.
the idea of trying to calculate that, trying to quantify that. That's been
Mhm.
something that I've had brewing around in my mind, trying to figure out how can we come up with a system that quilters can start to use to be able to say, I'm doing this bit, I'm doing this
Yeah,
much. Because
this
like
is my
he's
footprint.
yeah, what's my
Yeah.
footprint in all of this? What is my contribution to the textile waste, or what am I removing from textile waste?
Hmm.
And so that's in my mind brewing as a way of a calculator. I that will come from me eventually. I don't know when, but it will come.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of trying to understand what that impact is, because a lot of the times when I'm talking to different guilds, different groups, people are shocked that we have anything to worry about as quilters. And I get a lot of
Yeah.
pushback on social media. I get some trolls, I get some negative stuff saying, like, just let me do my quilting and, stop lecturing me and stop making
Yeah.
me feel guilty. And I'm like, well, I'm not making you feel guilty. I'm just saying what the truth is.
that guilt is from yourself thinking
You're
that
the
you're doing
one,
something wrong. Yeah.
you're the one that's feeling the guilt. I'm not
Yeah.
doing that to you.
Yeah.
Um, so, but it's hard for people in the quilt world to realize that we are contributing still to that textile waste. The textile
Yeah.
waste is it's like the fifth largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions on the
Yeah.
planet. That's a really significant thing. And quilting is part of that textile world. So we are not squeaky clean.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes I struggle with that idea that quilters are not willing to accept any responsibility in that. I don't
Yeah.
try to shame people at the same time. We all have our own vices and we all have our own things. I am not perfect. I can't do everything. I drive a
No,
car,
and
you
no one
know,
can, right?
nobody
Like
can.
nobody can. You can just like for my I would say environmental journey, it's like you get to pick like what you can
Yeah.
make an impact in, and then that's where you stay. And like if you can influence somebody else to do a small impact themselves, perfect. Like that's
Yeah,
all you can hope
exactly.
for. And then hopefully there's a ripple effect.
That's the ripple effect. Yeah, that like
Yeah.
every little small action matters. So
Yeah.
if one person decides, okay, this quilt, I'm not going to buy any new fabric for this quilt. I'm going to shop my stash.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's an amazing decision.
Right?
That's an amazing decision.
Oh,
And
I don't
it,
have the exact right red, but I can use this red. That's a huge decision in
yeah,
itself, right? Because it's so like I live 2 blocks away from a quilting store here in Edmonton. I'm like, it's so easy. Just like
just go
walk
buy
down the
the
road. Yeah,
yeah.
just go buy the black fabric.
Or you go to a thrift shop and you buy clothing or materials
Exactly.
upcycled, but you could have actually just shopped your own stash.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring in new materials. So
Yeah.
to me, the key thing is shop your stash first. And if you can do that even just for one project, that's actually making a
Huge.
difference.
Yeah.
It's making a difference. And those little small actions, I think what ends up happening when we start making those kinds of decisions in one project, the next time we go to do another project, we might think about it a little bit more
Yeah.
and we bring it into our lives in other ways as well, like into our daily shopping, our regular shopping habits. Maybe we make decisions not to, like, we are terrible consumers. We are like, well, we're really good consumers.
We're
Um,
very good consumers.
we're really good consumers, but it's a terrible problem, our consuming habits that we have. And myself included, I am totally guilty of this as well at times, and but I have a decision tree when I go through, and it's a struggle for me to be not in my own space right now because I'm staying at somebody else's house for the moment, and I go shopping and have to have different habits because I don't have my normal ways here.
Yeah.
And these are different stores, there's different habits in here. And I'm living in a household where they don't think the same way as me necessarily. Um, so I'm having to kind of curb that and change that, but maybe just infiltrate a little bit, you know, with the
Slip some things in,
slipping a few things in, like,
Yeah.
maybe we don't need to wrap our vegetables in plastic bags to get them home to take them out of the plastic bag.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just buy
It's
the
just loose.
vegetables, just buy
Yeah.
the loose vegetables, just little things like that. They're little small actions and they can eventually make a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that you're just slowly working at that. And so tell me about when you're talking to quilt guilds and some of the responses that you're getting to your process. How are people responding to that?
Um, the first time I think it came up, it was like, "Oh, you're just doing this to save money. You're just doing it because you're cheap." And I was like, "Yeah, like,
Sure.
sure. Like, I'm young. I don't have like, I'm not a double. Like, I wasn't a double income ever, and I mean, it was coming out of my own wallet. It wasn't working like a big person job. I worked in tourism before the pandemic, and then I mean, the pandemic hit, and look where we are now, and not working in tourism because it all shut down."
Right.
Oh, like it's so time consuming. Like how do you do all of this? It's like, and the joke in the guild, I don't know if you heard it, is like, I don't sleep.
Right.
Um, which like I would say from before, like I moved in with my partner, and then I definitely quilt less. than what I was before. And I was like, but I have like I'm hanging out with friends more because we're not in a pandemic. I know just have my friends, I have his friends, and then like if family's coming over and like all other life obligations and everything, we're not in lockdown anymore. I was like, I made 54 quilts in 2020. Like
Right.
that's like
That's a lot of
insanity, right?
quilts.
Like it's
That's
a
a
lot
lot.
of
That's like,
quilts.
that's more than a
Yeah.
day, a quilt a week. Oh my God.
Yeah. And that was like a king size, three queen sizes, twin sizes, throws, and wall hangings. So
Wow.
it's not like all king sizes. It
Yeah.
was a mix of things. But yeah, in the guild you'll see like, oh, Carolyn doesn't sleep because but like we'll go to a retreat and I'll eat and I'll be in the room the longest. And I
Right.
won't be sleeping there. I'll like drive home and sleep in my own bed and stuff. But um I don't know,
You're kind of driven.
yeah, I so like I found quilting because like my mom was doing it and then we were self-taught. We both didn't take any classes. She kind of joined a quilting group through the church, but it was like six ladies.
Hmm.
Um, and then she taught me what she knew, and then we were like teaching ourselves how to do it. But I had a hand injury that happened when I was skating in high school and I couldn't draw anymore. I couldn't sit for 8 hours and sketch and paint and draw and everything. And I figured that out in university when I took two fine arts courses and I was like debating of like going into a master's of fine arts after my recreation degree. And I was like toying this idea and everything. And then I was like, but I can't because I can't sit for 12 hours and paint. I can't do what I want to do and like to write a paper and then go to my art class or like
Hmm.
pull all nighter to get that art piece done and get that final touch on and then write my paper and all these things. And I was like, all this stuff. And I was like, well, I need a creative expression. I need somewhere to put it all. And quilting was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. Your you have this ancestral connection, I guess. This this
Kind of.
this connection with your mother,
Yeah.
a family connection through textiles. And I find that fascinating because I think that's a very common thread for, sorry for the pun, but
Yeah.
it is a very common thread for a lot of people who are in textiles that there's this connection to somebody that they care about deeply who brought them to this space. And while
Hmm.
they're doing that quilting and doing the textiles, whether they're aware of it or not, there's this relationship to the person that brought them there.
Oh, I'm very aware of it.
Yeah.
It is 100% my grief process.
Yeah. So you lost your mom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
No, my
okay.
mom got diagnosed with cancer in early like March of 2019. And then it was very fast. And she passed in July of that year.
Wow. That is fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was just getting good at quilting.
Ah.
Like that was it. So I mean, the
So
machine behind me was her fancy one that she bought in November of 2018 for herself for Christmas. So it is like, yeah,
yeah.
it's a really deep connection.
I think that textiles and quilting are a hugely important part of grief and trauma processing.
Yeah.
Um, I think that there's many, many, many of us who use it as a therapy, and
Yeah.
and there's this connection through the tactile that has really deep emotion, I think, and deep healing in it.
Yes.
And
Very much
and
so.
yeah, I can relate on many levels. I also lost my mother, who was also who brought me to quilting. It's been 6 years now for her passing, coming up on the anniversary soon. And she had Alzheimer's, and it was really hard to watch her
That's hard.
fade away and not. It was a longer process than what you've had to experience. There's
Yeah.
no good way to watch a loved one die. Um, but I
No.
feel like the community that comes together around quilting and textiles has all had a similar trauma somewhere along the way, and is part of what makes that community really beautiful and really supportive and really understanding of what you're going through and why you're going
Yeah.
through it, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know that that was really hard. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thanks. Yeah. Like I found the guild in like September of 2019 because I was like, I need to talk to someone
You need
other
to
than
find your people.
my small circle of friends that are like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I don't want to hear about quilting still, or like, I don't care about what fabric you're picking or anything. I mean, there's lots of guilds around Edmonton, but the modern guild here, we have 49 members now,
Okay.
50 members or something, and it was like in the mid 30s when I joined, and
It's
I
really
was like,
grown.
it's really grown.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. COVID definitely helped that. A lot of people like moving back into Edmonton, us hosting hybrid meetings or
Yeah.
having stuff on like as an online option has really grown. And
I
I
think,
think also just people picking up quilting through COVID.
well, and I think also the modern movement has actually had a big increase. So tell me,
Huge.
why did you choose the modern quilt guild? Because there's a couple quilt guilds in Edmonton.
Mhm.
Why did you choose the modern quilt guild?
Because it was smaller.
Okay.
I kind of went into like a hermit stage after my mom passed, and
Well,
I was like,
sure. Fair.
yeah, like I was working a summer job and I left it, and then I didn't go back, and then I was like, I don't know what to do, and I was like just quilting and like trying to figure out life without mom, and uh and then I was like, oh, I should find a guild. Like it's like I just need some like people to talk to. I need to learn more and like be around people with the same mindset. And I was like, I'm young. If I go to like I think it's called the district guild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Edmonton district. And they have like over 200 members and they
Yeah.
brag about it. And I'm like, that's great. I love it. But then it's like, oh, yeah, you can't do a show and tell without a finished quilt. They have different committees, and I was like, I feel like I would be lost in a group of 200
Sure.
people.
Not what you're
And I was
needing
like,
for that process. Yeah.
yeah. And then I was like, I was like just getting into like, I thought I was more of a modern quilter. I was still doing traditional patterns, but I mean, with my age and everything and like what I was interested in, it was more modern anyways. And I actually ended up going to like a creative festival or something, and
Okay.
there was like lectures from quilters, there was vendors and like different things that you could do, and I went just alone and like I didn't have anybody else to go to with it, and I went up to a table, ended up being that the then president was there, and she goes, you need to join. Oh my gosh, what's your name? Who are you? What do you do? All these things, and like kind of like fawned over me, and I was like, wow, like okay, I guess I'll come to a meeting. Went to the meeting. She, I came into the room because this was before COVID still, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Carolyn, you came! I'm so excited you're here." All these things, and I just felt so like welcomed into the community.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody. Sat down. People sat around me, started talking to me, and then I was like so, like, not overwhelmed, but just like I felt like I was amongst the people that I should be around.
Yeah.
And so then I joined, and then they changed their bylaws the next year so that I could be president. So here we are. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah, well, I know that they would be excited. I would be excited by seeing a young quilter come in and it's like, oh yes,
Yeah.
we need to do whatever we can do
It's
to
like
get this
young blood.
person to be here because we
Yeah.
need young blood and we need young quilters in our world. You know, the quilters are typically, I think there was a study just recently released around the average age of a quilter is around 62.
Yeah. It's like
Um,
60. Yeah. 62. Yeah.
yeah, and that feels like even I'm not 62. That feels really old. But it's not really old. Of course it's not.
Yeah.
But to be that having that be the average, it just we need younger quilters. We need to
Yeah.
see more young quilters in this industry because it is a very dynamic, growing, beautiful industry to be a part of as well. You know, it's
Hmm.
it's really lovely to see that. And I love seeing the trends that are starting to happen now around zero waste, sustainability, that's becoming a more common conversation rather than not, than it's
Yes.
just being ignored. Like we're starting to hear more and more and more about it, which
Yeah.
is exciting.
Yeah. I really want, like, I understand with like with pattern designers is like, oh, they have their fabric requirements and then the plus the whatever percentage for errors of cutting. But then there's so much left over, and I'm like, that needs to change. Like
Yeah.
that, I think if I ever do patterns, it'd be like, this is your exact fabric requirements. If you're worried about like miscuts or you need extra or whatever, like then you
That's
add
on you.
this much per
Yeah.
color. Like
Yeah.
that's on you, boo. Like, because I've
Yeah.
had a couple of patterns that I've used, and it's just like, and it was a beginning of my journey, and I was like, oh yeah, I bought this much fabric, and then I like finished the quilt top, and I was like,
This much left over.
there's
So much,
there's
so
so
much
much left over,
not only
and
from the
that's
scraps, but just not even used, not
just
even
not
cut
even
into.
used, not even
Yeah.
cut into. Like that's what blows my mind with it all.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean that's
in commercial, they call it dead stock, right?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
just
And
this
I
stuff that
just
just doesn't get used in the production. It's like,
yeah,
why
yeah,
do we
it's
have so much
ridiculous.
dead stock?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm glad to see that there's now dead stock companies that are selling materials. That's
Yes,
super
I love
cool.
it.
Like I
Yeah.
interviewed Our Social Fabric, and they sell dead stock from mostly from the movie theater, the movie
That's
industry
cool.
in Vancouver, because they get a lot of dead stock stuff in there
Right.
um, from that industry. But there are other dead stock companies that are from garment sewing and that kind of stuff as
Hmm.
well.
In the like outdoor industry, Cotopaxi is a company out of this, like they're a state American company, but they do Del Dia is their line, and it's all with their dead stock. So
Oh, cool.
they put the onus on the sewers, and no Del Dia item is like another. So
Oh,
they get to
cool.
pick the colors of screen printing. They get to pick the colors of the zippers, of the tabs, of the straps. I usually have one in here with me. Oh yeah, I have it right here. So like this
Oh, cool, cool.
is like a one of a kind bag.
Backpack,
So
yeah.
backpack, yeah. And so like the buckles are different colors, and it's just like because they don't have enough of that one color to make their like color runs, but they have enough to make all these other bags. So it's a really is yeah, Cotopaxi is really cool.
That is very cool. So
Yeah.
if you can send me that
Mhm.
information, I'll put it into the show notes as a link for people if they want to check out that company.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we'll connect to Our Social Fabric as well. And there's Fab Cycle for dead stock, and if I find a couple of other
Um,
ones, we'll put them in there.
Blenders in Edmonton for
Okay,
recycling. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you
So
pay by the pound.
so you just go buy material by the pound.
It's material, it's clothing, it's everything. And then
Oh,
they'll like things that are in like they do like classes and stuff, and they do a lot of upcycling. And then they do poofs. So like kind of what I've done with
cool.
my poofs, they kind of do the similar thing, but it's how they fabric do their own recycling.
Ta-
So they're the only like textile recycling company in Edmonton.
oh, okay. Actually, I've been
Yeah.
reading about them. Yeah, and I wanted to go
Mhm.
and visit and see what's going on there.
So cool.
Yeah,
So cool. Yeah.
yeah. Maybe you and I can go together.
I would love that. Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do a little field trip.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love that.
Thank you so much for talking to me and sharing your story. I really, really appreciate that, and I think that it's exciting to learn about what young quilters are doing and what their motivations are, and just knowing, regardless of the age of you, just that there's other people out there interested in the zero waste, working on projects that are still beautiful and still really interesting. Use up all the scraps. We didn't even get into your organization methods and stuff like that, so we might have to have another conversation, because I was so impressed with your at the guild meeting when we were talking, and you brought out your different colored scrap bags that are made
Yeah.
from scraps.
Yeah.
That's how you sort and store your stuff. I'm like, that is brilliant. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that,
Use
because
the
that's one
scraps to store the other scraps.
I think is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of quilters have, is how do I organize my materials so that I can easily access them again when
Yeah.
we're talking about scraps? Because often they just go into a bag or into a bin, and then you got to sift through them and figure that out. And
Yeah.
it's
It's
overwhelming.
not, it does get overwhelming. And then you get into like, it's something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I would say I was really lucky because of that library. trips, not just trips. I found like my scrap journey and my quilting journey so early, and like that it kind of came hand in hand. Like I was quilting, but then I was also like managing scraps at the same time, you know?
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think scrap management is a super important part of being able to be a sustainable process for quilting. I think that
Yeah.
reusing those scraps and figuring out how to reuse those scraps effectively and store them so that we don't feel like hoarders.
I feel like a hoarder now.
I do. I struggle with that. I totally struggle
Like,
with
oh
that.
no.
The
Yeah.
guilt of, oh my God, I can't throw that out, but what am I going to do with it? When will I ever do anything with it? I don't know how to deal
Yeah.
with this.
But then
Um,
it's finding that person that will deal with it and like wants to deal with it,
yeah.
or that company that will recycle it for you, or anything.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is challenging. The recycling piece is challenging in
Very.
most areas. Like here, I'm really glad to hear about this company in Edmonton, but where I live in the Ottawa region, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like
No.
that going on. So where do we send our scraps if we feel like we can't use them?
Yeah.
Because I know you're not taking any more scraps. So
I'm like I'm pausing on that until
yeah.
I can like deal with all the scraps. One of my friends, she is a quilter and she just moved to BC, but she didn't want to haul everything, so it was like the movers will charge you by weight, and so she left me bags and just said my name on it. And it's like for Carolyn, and then I picked it up from her parents' place, and I was like, oh, this is like
A lot of
6 bags. This is a lot
oh
of
my
this
God.
is a lot of scraps.
Yeah.
So I'm like on the last bag now, but it's just like it's finding that person that will take it, or that guild, because if it's scraps that are still usable and like in still like decent sizes, a lot of guilds will take that in for like their charity projects or anything.
Hmm.
There's Victoria, I think it's called Victoria quilts,
Those
quilts
Victoria
for
quilts for
like
survivors. Yeah.
yeah, quilts for survivors, Victoria quilts for people living through cancer or in remission. I think it's called that. I'm not sure. But like so many different organizations that are just like doing charity quilts.
Yeah.
And I mean, wherever you are, there's probably a local guild or somewhat local guilds that will happily take your donations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely that around. It's tricky finding the people though. And
Yeah.
that's it's a whole other conversation that we'll get into another time because it's dealing with our scraps and dealing with our stashes and dealing with that. And I don't want to dive too deeply with this for you because we're running out of time. But
It's okay.
I inherited fabric from my mother and I didn't know what to do with it because it wasn't my style. I wouldn't have used that kind of fabric myself.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty not hanging on
Not
to it
using it.
because
Yeah.
I'm a quilter, so I should be using it. And so I basically found other people who would use it but then this summer 3 bins of it came back to me. So
Yeah.
I have my mother's fabric back again. So I'm still trying to figure out.
Dye it or cut it smaller.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much
That's
what I've got to try and do is
yeah.
figure out the scrap piecing stuff and getting that sorted so that I can actually use these things because we have and then I then I think about myself and what am I leaving for my kids to have to deal with, right? And
Yeah.
I don't want them to be overwhelmed by all the materials that I have as well.
Yeah.
And I've really pared down what I have in materials. So yeah, it's a tricky one to work through
Very much so.
responsibly
Yeah.
and not feel like you're just throwing stuff away, but also feel like you're honoring the craft that you want to be able to do and continually do.
Hmm.
So it's this
Yeah, it's
mindful
like
piece.
it's a vicious cycle of it, but then also just like trying to be mindful within it
Yeah.
is tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for talking with me today. It's been
Yeah,
really
thank you
good.
so much for having me. This was awesome.
Tell people how they can find you.
I'm on Instagram with at Kodiak.quilting. And then I also have a website, adventurefiberworks.com, that is run with my best friend. And I have a market in Edmonton coming up at Fordament Park on December 7th to 10th.
Excellent.
Um, Best way to contact me, though, is through good old Instagram.
Nice. All right. We'll put that all into the show notes as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Bridget.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for listening to that episode. I really enjoyed being able to chat with Caroline and, being able to have authentic, honest, and open conversations is such a huge reward for doing these conversations and having these interviews, and getting to know folks in this way is something that I really, really deeply appreciate and have a lot of gratitude for. It's one of my favorite parts about doing this kind of work. I hope that you enjoyed that and that you're starting to find some ways towards figuring out your own sustainability journey and what it can look like for you. I know that I've been exploring a lot over this last year, and the next couple episodes are going to be kind of talking about what that means and what that can be for each of us and what it's been for me over this last year and how I see things changing in the new year for me. I'm really wanting to focus heavily on mindfulness and the rewards that I'm getting, the benefits that I'm getting out of doing textiles in a sustainable way. And I'm going to be talking more directly about that, about those pieces of what sustainability can mean and how you can introduce that into your practice if you're wanting to do that. I am going to be starting a sustainability challenge, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm developing that right now, and more to come on that in the new year. And I hope that if you're interested, you're going to join us over in the Green Stitchers Hive, and we can walk through what sustainability looks like for each of us and start to learn how to bring that into our practices or develop it further if we're already doing it. Thanks so much for listening today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.